Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Well, happy Maha Monday today. Did you know it was Maha Monday? Have you heard how it's being celebrated in D.C.? Watch this.
On August 4th, it is Maha Monday, where we shine a spotlight on the Make America Healthy Again movement. More than 50 amazing vendors from across the country will be showcasing the very best in fresh produce and local goods. I'll be stepping into the kitchen with Brooke for a live cooking demo with ingredients straight from the farmer's market. I'll be mixing up a blueberry smoothie. Brooke's whipping up a healthy peach and goat cheese summer salad that I suspect will steal the show. And we've got more than just good food on the menu. We're making real progress behind the scenes with another SNAP announcement that moves our Maha mission forward.
Sounds kind of funny to be talking about blueberry smoothies and a farmer's market in DC, right? Welcome to Christy Lee's DC Dispatch. Lindell TV's Allison Steinberg is at that event, and she's going to be bringing us the latest there if she's able to make it out. I know there's a lot of information she's collecting, so we'll get to her toward the end of the show if possible. Dr. Peter McCullough is also joining us soon with a Maha grade, particularly on the issue most of us care about, putting an end to unsafe and untested vaccines. But first, some DC moving and shaking going on. Watch this.
I am running to be your governor of the great state of South Carolina. There we go, baby. South Carolina first. I want to thank...
What do you think about this development? We have Nancy Mace running for governor. She's fully embraced the MAGA. You heard her say South Carolina first. She's going to be a super MAGA governor, she says, for South Carolina with a full Trump endorsement. But she's facing tough competition like Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette. She's also running against Ralph Norman, who's been endorsed by Nikki Haley. I wonder how that will work out for Ralph Norman. I think things are looking good for Nancy Grace. Mace, Nancy Mace. I was like, that sounded weird when it came out. So if he's endorsed by Nikki Haley, Ralph Norman, I think she should do okay. Then we have Jeanine Pirro, that feisty former Fox News host. She just got confirmed as U.S. Attorney for D.C. in a nail-biting 50-45 Senate vote. With 3 decades as a prosecutor and judge, she's ready to tackle crime in the Capitol, though ABC News skipped that resume detail of all of her legal experience, of course, because they just want to paint all of these people that are in Trump's cabinet as TV hosts and nothing more, ignoring all other qualifications. Meanwhile, Democrats are playing games again. Politico reports dozens of Texas Democrats have fled the state to block a vote on Trump-backed redistricting maps, leaving the legislature without a quorum. Governor Greg Abbott's threatening to kick them out of office, and it's delaying critical flood aid too. So that's the key here. As they play their games, they're going to delay the flood aid. And they always act like holier than thou, like they're doing this to protect democracy when they play these games all the time. Like if it was them trying to redistrict like they did in New York before, oh, that's fine. But when Texas wants to make updates, that can't do. But there are a lot of blue games that are not working for the party. Democrats are pinning their hopes on a blue wave for the 2026 midterms, betting on Trump's perceived unpopularity. You know, they feel like because they feel like he's so unpopular since they hate him so much, surely there's going to be blue wave. Also, that big tax bill they've continually lied about to swing voters. But it's looking like a wave would be more of a trickle, even according to Politico. So not good news there. With GOP control holding strong and polls showing a tight race, some insiders are saying, yep, we might just be dreaming. And you know things are bad for Dems when even CNN seems to be giving a reality check. Watch.
The Donald Trump administration is arguably the most influential this century and probably as well dating back a good portion of the last century as well. Love it, like it, lump it. Trump is remaking in the United States of America. Let's talk about tariffs first, right? There's all this talk that Donald Trump always chickens out when it comes to tariffs. No tacos for Trump. The effective tariff rate, get this. It's 18%, the highest since the FDR administration in the 1930s, up from, get this, just 2% last year. From just 2% last year, we're talking about a level, an effective tariff rate level, get this, 9 times as high this year than last year. But it's not just on tariffs, which of course Donald Trump ran on, in which you're seeing a tremendously influential presidency. What about immigration? Of course, Trump ran and has always run on a very hawkish immigration platform. Get this, 2025 net migration in the United States down at least 60% from last year. In fact, we may be heading for the first time in at least 50 years in which we have net negative migration into the United States. And last year, of course, in 2024, the net migration in the U.S. was 2.8 million. This year, we might be talking about negative net migration. My goodness gracious. Now, of course, this is part of a larger story, as I was mentioning. We're talking about immigration, net migration. We're talking about the effective tariff rate. But get this. How is Donald Trump doing it? Well, he is signing a ton of executive orders. Get this, 180, the most in a year since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Oh my goodness, you have to go back to the first half of the 20th century, the last century, and to make a comparison, Joe Biden signed, get this, just 77 during his entire first year, and we're only a little bit in August so far, and Donald Trump making history with 180 executive orders signed so far this year. So that's why I said that in my mind, Donald Trump is the most influential president of this century and probably dating back a good portion of the last century. That is because he is remaking the country in terms of tariffs. He is remaking the country in terms of net migration, and he is remaking the country in terms of how much policy changes he's putting through in executive orders. As I said, it truly is history making. Love it, like it, or lump it.
I'm sure many of you will pick the love it. He's following through on his campaign promises. Now, in a sane world, the Russiagate revelations would make the Democrat Party obsolete. More on that in a moment. But first, we're so blessed to be able to bring the truth out of D.C. You never thought you could have those words in the same sentence, right? We can bring you the truth out of D.C. with the support of our fearless leader, Mike Lindell. We want to continue to encourage you to pray for Mike Lindell, and then also support him. You know, he's been kicked out of the big box stores, and so he really needs the support from viewers like you to go to mypillow.com and pick up your favorites. I just found some time to remake my bed this weekend. I know, breaking news. I found time to I mean, it's so gross, right? We need to make our bed like every week, but I've been slacking with those Giza sheets. They're so comfortable. There's nothing like getting into a freshly cleaned and made bed. And I love it when I have those Giza sheets on there. They keep you cool, but they're also soft against your skin. So if you haven't tried out the Giza sheets yet, please make sure you do. And again, you know, it's a gift for you, and it keeps the truth coming out of DC through Lindell TV White House coverage live. So again, mypillow.com, use promo code KL to support this show and support our great Mike Lindell. All right. Now, it seems every day more evidence is released about the plot against the president, the cooked up Russia narrative bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton. And so we're all wondering, when Will we see accountability? Well, lucky for us, we have a tenacious Kara Castronova who loudly asked President Trump about what are we going to be able to lock her up or what? Watch.
Will Hillary Clinton finally be investigated for election fraud?
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know whether or not that'll happen, but I hope so.
So he's being a little coy there, but yes, we're all anxious to know. It seems like many of us, however, are still feeling very pessimistic about this. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this track record, if we could pull that up, about how many arrests we've made so far. We see Russian collusion hoax, 0. January 6th, 0. Mar-a-Lago raid, 0. Biden, AutoPen, 0. We have so many conspiracies, criminal acts that we've been able to cover, but not much action in the way of arrests, right? So I guess you could say Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene is speaking for a lot of us who are like, okay, where are the results? But White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller is not holding back in making sure we're making clear that there are criminal acts that need to be prosecuted. So here he is describing the Russia hoax as a lot of criminal acts all rolled into one. Watch.
The Russia collusion hoax against President Trump remains the single greatest hoax and the greatest assault on our democracy in the history of this country. There's no comparison, there's no parallel to anything else. It was a coup, and I'm using that term literally. It was a coup to overthrow a democratically elected government, a coup carried out by the intelligence apparatus of this country, by the deep state, by Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party. The new information that has been revealed by the Director of National Intelligence and by the FBI eliminates any scintilla of doubt about the intention, the premeditation, the planning and orchestration of this conspiracy. It meets all of the criminal elements of a seditious conspiracy against the United States. It meets the criminal elements of an insurrection. It meets the criminal elements of a conspiracy against the government and the criminal elements of a conspiracy to deprive citizens of their civil rights under color of law. One egregious felony after another. And because it is a conspiracy, as demonstrated by the forethought of realizing and documenting that they understood that this was fake from the beginning, meeting the mens rea standard in law. Because of that, because it is a conspiracy, every single individual actor is now part of that conspiracy. So that includes Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Hillary and Schiff and everybody else who knowingly and willfully perpetrated this plot, this coup, this conspiracy, this scheme against President Trump and the government of the United States. And now is the time and the hour and the moment for accountability so that we can reclaim this democracy, Maria.
So a true crime against our democratic republic. But what about the egregious crime against humanity? Rushing through and mandating an unsafe, many believe deadly COVID-19 vaccine on we the people. We're going to be getting to that topic with our special guest, Dr. McCullough, but we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with our special guest. Thanks.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text medals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text medals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text medals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
You know, it's no surprise that disastrous COVID-19 vaccine rollout has parents now questioning all of the vaccines. I was watching CNN this morning. That's news in and of itself that I would dare to watch CNN, but I like to see what the other guys are doing. So I was watching CNN headlines this morning, and they were talking about vaccine exemptions for school kids are skyrocketing, with the CDC reporting a record high as parents opt out for non-medical reasons. And of course, they say some states are seeing exemptions double since 2020, going back to like, okay, maybe it was that disastrous rollout of and gaslighting we had during the pandemic that is causing people to question other things. But of course, CNN, they ramp up the fear, saying this trend is raising alarms about potential outbreaks. And they point to the measles outbreaks that were here, particularly in Texas and increasing other places. But I mean, even that story, we could use some insight on. And for that reason, for context and insight, we are going to turn to Dr. Peter McCullough. He's an internist, cardiologist, and epidemiologist. He has broadly published on a range of topics in medicine with more than 1,000 publications and over 685 citations in the National Library of Medicine, testified multiple times on Capitol Hill and elsewhere. He's considered among the world's experts on COVID-19. So Dr. Peter McCullough, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yes. Parents, they're clearly more hesitant now to follow that vaccine schedule, as the alarmists on the network news are pointing out. And now you have a new book that can actually be a great resource in making these very important decisions. You know, it's so scary anytime you make a decision about your children. You want to do what's best for them. And so I don't like vilifying people that choose to follow the vaccine schedule, because there is so much fear used in doing so. But tell me about this book and how it can relate to helping parents make these decisions, because clearly hesitancy is coming into play.
Well, this book is really a historical accounting of what's happened over the development of vaccines, starting back from the early 18th century. And you're right, fear has been a big part of it, fear of infectious diseases. And rightly so. 300 years ago, when we didn't have antibiotics, we didn't understand what was even causing these illnesses. Much different today, though, very different. And the common theme, though, through this whole field of vaccinology is fear, a lot of hubris, that is, a lot of bravado by the vaccinators, those who claim that they can improve upon mankind, God's creation, a lot of money and power from the very beginning. And boy, did we see that come to full light during COVID-19.
Yes, we did. I mean, and it was something that couldn't be ignored. Now we're seeing that they're really trying to use this measles narrative, like, oh, there was an outbreak, and it's directly related to the fact that there is now vaccine hesitancy and disinformation out there. What do you say about this this alleged rise in measles and how they're using this to change the story?
Every year in the United States, there are several hundred, even up to several thousand cases of measles. But to give you an idea, we're at about 1,200 cases in the United States. And they occur in those who took the vaccine and those who didn't. But, worldwide, Some years we hit 600,000. 600,000. So 1,200 in the United States is essentially nothing. Now, there shouldn't be any measles deaths if they're properly treated with protocols, including immunoglobulin for contacts, vitamin A, secondary antibiotics, steroids for the pneumonitis and encephalitis. So sadly, the quote measles deaths we've seen so far in the United States is because of inadequate treatment, not because of measles. And the CDC is disingenuous. They report that 95% are unvaccinated or vaccine status unknown. And let me tell you, that second part of that is not right. The CDC knows the vaccine status, and if they don't, they should, because they're interviewing every case. And so the bottom line is the CDC really doesn't want to tell us how many people took the measles shots and still get measles anyway.
Interesting. So yeah, it makes it very evident on how they're gaslighting in that narrative as well. The thing I really like about this new book is you're taking it all the way back to basically how vaccines started. I learned something new. I didn't know vacca is from the Latin word, as I understand it, of cow. Tell me about how vaccines started picking up and how it's evolved into now you need like almost 90 vaccines from the time that you're an infant till you're 18.
Right. So you picked up on this. We divide the timeline from what we call the Great Prelude, from smallpox vaccination, early 18th century, through experimentation and development, late 18th, early 19th and 20th centuries, and then the modern vaccination era, 1947 and forward. And finally, this is really distressing, 2004 forward, we call it the bioweapons era, where now the biggest interest in vaccines has to do with biological warfare. What we've seen is this hubris, this idea that infectious disease threats never change and that all we can do is just add more vaccines on. So in our book, we actually highlight Dr. Poling. He was a neurologist at Johns Hopkins. And this is astonishing. In the vignette that happened to his child, and I can tell you that he was in the vaccine injury compensation program himself. He's a neurologist at Johns Hopkins, and that's in Chapter 19, Intrigue in the U.S. Court of Vaccine Claims. And the scenario that happened to his daughter is something that will be familiar, sadly, to many of your followers. A 19-year-old girl was born after a 19-month-old girl was born after a normal full-term delivery, no family history of autism or affective neuromuscular hearing disorders. Her development was progressing well with normal receptive and expressive language and use of pre-linguistic gestures. This is actually from Dr. Poling in a case report. Several of her shots were delayed because she had ear infection. So she had to catch up. And within 48 hours, she took within 48 hours of the immunizations, and they were the following: diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, Haemophilus influenza B, measles, mumps and rubella, polio, and varicella. She develops a fever, gets very, very sick, and within a few days or weeks develops autism. Dr. Poling publishes this as a case report, and he's in the Vaccine Injury Compensation Omnibus. You know what happened is our federal government actually separated him out, compensated him, took him out as a test case, and they rejected all the other cases as not being associated with vaccination. So the great concern, Christy, is not only the COVID shot. Parents are afraid of large numbers of vaccines given in combination, then the child getting very sick, the elevation of a fever. And in a paper by Nielsen and colleagues from Sweden, when a febrile seizure occurs, there's sick enough to have a fever, and then a seizure in the child, there's a 40% chance they convert to a serious neuropsychiatric condition like autism.
Wow. I mean, one of the things that is just so basically troubling and wild to me, with me having a 7-month-old baby right now, I feel like I'm in the
Mhm.
algorithm of it. I'm getting all the infant type stuff. It's just so wild to me that when you're pregnant, you're told, don't eat lunch meat, don't eat sushi, don't even have a drop of alcohol. And when that baby comes,
Mhm.
make sure that when you introduce food, you do it a week apart for each food. I mean, there's like
Yeah.
many things, is it like hysteria when it comes to food. but but it's just like, oh, your child is behind on vaccines, here, take a bunch all at once to catch up. It defies logic, and it's just so maddening that doctors are going along with this.
Well,
I
what
just
we
don't understand.
found is, Christian, of religion. It's like a madness among doctors, pediatricians, and public health agencies. You're right. They're so cautious about food, so cautious about other things. But vaccination, even during pregnancy, and listen, that's pretty new. When my wife had my kids, there were no vaccines given to pregnant women. The infectious disease threats haven't changed. Now, a pregnant woman today is faced with the diphtheria, tetanus, acellular pertussis, inactivated flu, and now respiratory syncytial virus and the COVID-19 vaccine. So, this is, in my view, it's reckless, because during pregnancy, if a fever is provoked by the vaccines, and it can easily happen, then the women can lose their babies in the first trimester, a miscarriage, middle, that would be a stillbirth, or a premature delivery near the end. All of those are disasters, and they're provoked by vaccination.
It's so sad. It's so sad. Meanwhile, we're hearing that parents are questioning. They are more cautious, hesitant about the vaccine schedule. So we are getting the word out, despite the censorship that we experienced for the last few years. But right away, coming on the heels of these reports, you see the American Academy of Pediatrics is now calling for an end to basically any exemption. They say, oh, we'll still take medical exemptions, but non-medical should be very rare. No, they don't want any non-medical vaccines, and even the medical ones they say should be very rare. And they're also using this measles narrative to call for this. So, are you concerned that they will be able to bully their way into disallowing exemptions for school?
Well, Christy, why don't you tell me what type of heat you could potentially face? I mean, are you having your child go through all the routine vaccines?
Myself?
Yeah.
Oh, I have 0 vaccines for my kids.
Okay, so there you go. And are they?
Dr. McCullough, I have a child who just turned 18, and then, like I said, a 7-month-old baby. So my 18-year-old did get some vaccines, but even then, way back then, I didn't like how they were like back to back.
Right.
So even those, I was on a one and delayed, like very spaced apart. And then by the time I got to my youngest too, it was like, no, I'm not playing these experiments at all anymore. So it kind of waned as I had more children and I got more educated.
So you're a good example. So you have some completely unvaccinated children.
Yes.
And how are they?
Amazing. And honestly, Dr. McCullough, that's what makes me even more sad, because as I see them reach their milestones and smiles, I feel for the parents that are going along just like me, and then they go to an appointment, and it puts me in that empathetic of I cannot imagine just having all the excitement of seeing these milestones and then overnight see something change. That's just such a terrifying and so sad feeling.
It's true. And, right now we can consider combination vaccination at least a risk factor for the neuropsychiatric disorders. That's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is in right now 11% of children, autism, which is in 3.2% of children, allergic diseases like asthma, atopic dermatitis, food allergies, tics, seizure disorders. It's not looking good. And a recent report in JAMA indicated only 40% of parents plan to do the full schedule. And the principles are here, fewer vaccines are safer. Obviously, there can be fewer side effects. And if they're given later in life, beyond the period of critical immunologic and neurologic development, they're a lot safer. And certainly not given altogether. And so 40% of parents say they're going to do the full schedule, but 60% of parents say they're not. Now the American Academy of Pediatrics went hyperbolic on this and said, we're going to try to shut down exemptions. Now in Texas, we have philosophical, medical, and religious exemptions. I think that's what all states should have. In fact, Association of American Physicians and Surgeons passed a resolution in 2020 saying there should be no school requirements to begin with. We shouldn't have the requirements to begin with to even have to fool with exemptions.
Yeah. I mean, in here in Texas, I mean, and that's why I wish more parents were educated, that just find out what your state requires, because for Texas, I have to send something out and then they send me the forms back. Then I need to go and make sure I don't fill them out until I'm in front of a notary and then turn those things in. I believe there's new legislation that passed that they're going to make this even easier. But then I'm like going about my normal thing. Like I'm actually ready to take them in. As the school year is starting, and I'm seeing that they want to do away with these exemptions altogether, and so that's terrifying.
Well, people. I
mean, it's not going to change what I do. I mean, they just won't go to school. But it's still sad.
It becomes very uncomfortable in Texas. We have what we perceive to be, a lot of medical freedom, but we're having to pass laws so you can download the form as opposed to getting it. You can see how twisted this is. The vaccine lobby is very powerful, and they are lobbying every step of the way so no child can get exemptions. Now, New York and California, Connecticut, and I believe West Virginia, this is terrible, where essentially there's just no way of getting out of this. In California, they limit each doctor. They can only give 5 exemptions, and when they do, they review their licenses. It's at the point where California, they're effectively forced into vaccination. No surprise, California has the highest rate of autism. There, the rate of autism is 5.2%. And listen to this, of those kids with autism, 27% have profound autism. That's an IQ less than 55, nonverbal, can't speak, head banging, unable to use the toilet or shower unassisted. They're essentially invalids for life. We now in California are over 1% of children like this.
It's so sad. And, we are learning more and more about how vaccine on these schedules is incentivized. It all goes back to follow the money. This same group, the American Academy of Pediatrics, claim that doctors don't profit. This is all for the good, when we vaccinate. They claim they don't profit from this, but, there are reports elsewhere, like Revolver did this report that shows receipts showing that insurance kickbacks, they do pay these doctors to make sure all of their patients are vaccinated. I know I've experienced this myself. When I moved to California, I couldn't have a doctor because no one would take my children because they weren't fully vaccinated. So, wow. What can you tell me about the incentives for vaccinations when it comes to money?
Vaccines are, like I say, very different than other drugs. If people are below certain income levels or don't have insurance, the government steps in and actually covers vaccines. So there's all kinds of procurement, distribution, reimbursement to make sure doctors' offices are, in a sense, ready to go with vaccines. There are school administration programs as well that, again, government supported. And they have reporting departments of community health. So vaccines are essentially to the consumer free of charge. And behind all these schemes are many, many motivational tools to make sure doctors, quote, fully vaccinate their panel of patients. We saw this acutely with COVID-19. Everything behind vaccines is centered around money and juicing the system. It's nearly $100 billion a year revenue, basically windfall. to the companies providing vaccines because, the money's always there for them. They don't have to compete in the marketplace.
Now, we talked about how there's so much correlation between vaccines and autism and other side effects that can happen when you're piling these vaccines on. Obviously, the worst case scenario is death, and our shared colleague Ed Dowd is talking about 5,000 vaccine-linked deaths a week. Is his claim when it comes to particularly this COVID vaccine. And, we talk about politics. We talk about will people be arrested for Russiagate and that lie? Will people be arrested for the problems we had with elections? A lot of us are like, hey, I just want to see people arrested for pushing deadly vaccines on people. Is enough being done with this MAHA movement? And, I did just see that there's been efforts to remove the, I don't know if I can say that right, thimerosal, the mercury-based preservative. Is enough being done to try and keep people safe?
Well, I like how you set that up. So the priority ought to be loss of human life. So let's say loss of American lives. That's more important than the Epstein files or, Russiagate or the Mueller report or the Durham report or the Steele dossier. The loss of American lives ought to be the biggest thing up there in the media. So let's take the routine childhood vaccine schedule. Neil Miller published an important paper a few years ago. The vast majority of infant sudden deaths in previously healthy babies under the age of 1, it occurs within a few days of taking a big battery of vaccines. So just sudden infant death syndrome alone, there ought to be an all hands on deck investigation of, is it related to giving a big battery of vaccines? Looks like it is. Now the COVID-19 vaccine story, and I just reviewed this for this piece. According to the U.S. CDC Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, through June 27, 2025, Christy, we're at 19,439 COVID vaccine deaths. Now, these are deaths reported by doctors and healthcare professionals who believe the vaccine is a cause of death, and I've reported these. I've reviewed hundreds of manuscripts from this database, and yes, the deaths are due to the COVID-19 vaccine. So the VAERS system is causation by proxy of reporting. Now, an accepted underreporting factor, according to the FDA, is 30. That would lead us to 583,170 Americans who have died of the COVID-19 vaccine. A biopharmaceutical catastrophe. Most deaths occurred in 2021. But still to this day, since boosters are on the market, and unfortunately some people still take them, we still have several hundred deaths today. Now enter in the new administration. So we have Trump and Robert F. Kennedy and Marty McCullough. Well, listen, this has now occurred on their watch over the course of 6 months. So you can imagine the predicament they're in. If tomorrow they said, we're going to pull them off the market, they're not safe, the first thing people are going to ask is, why'd you wait so long?
Yeah, it's quite the predicament. But ultimately, like you said, this should be the highest priority. Ultimately, politics aside, people are dying and people are getting injured. And that should be the number one thing that we're seeing done. Is it enough to talk about removing mercury-based preservatives? Is it enough to talk about not requiring the mRNA vaccine or not recommending it? Even that was kind of a PR flop. They came out, they said they were not going to require it. And then it was just like a week later, it was being recommended. It just kind of makes your head spin.
Right. Remember that the ACIP panel just recommends, they don't require anything. And they said, we're, healthy pregnant women, healthy children, we're not going to recommend it. But then they put this long list of things. But if a pregnant woman is, not very fit, she should take it. And they kind of, have all these additional layers of, still recommending it. They concluded that a third of Americans should be taking boosters. This was Macri and Prasad in the New England Journal of Medicine. They published this. And at that time, fewer than 15% of people were even taking shots. So these two guys are completely out of touch. Actually, Prasad has kind of stepped down now. He's only there 90 days. This Maha movement should focus on saving human life. They're getting distracted on food dyes or fluoride or postmenopausal hormones. It's as if the public health Maha government officials want to talk about everything except COVID-19 vaccine injuries, disabilities, and deaths. Now, having said that, thiomarisol, which is a mercury contaminant in vaccines, it was removed largely from the childhood vaccines. It was still in adult flu shots. So there was only 4% of them left. They got them on the market. But again, the big problem is people who have injured, disabled, or died of the COVID vaccine. We need a massive research program. We need things to do right now to help people. People are still dying of subclinical myopericarditis. A public health official, vaccine czar in Northern Europe, just died in his 50s. We just had a cardiologist at Baylor in Dallas die at the end of this year. My age, no explanation. We're seeing this over and over again. Ed Dowd's reporting working age people on the rolls of death and disability insurance. The spouses are cashing in because people are still dying of the COVID shots.
Now, we talk about the money incentives, money talks. We do have Representative Thomas Massey pushing a bill that would let people sue pharma, because that's another big reason why we got in this mess. As soon as they knew they didn't have to face liability, well, suddenly let's add 7 more vaccines to the recommended list of vaccines you should get. So obviously, big correlation there. Do you have any hope that we will get to a point where we can turn around and make these companies liable?
I think 2 things to happen. One would be rescinding the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act, of which they really don't pay out any compensation anyway, make vaccine companies responsible. And then, of course, removing the PrEP Act, which is shielding Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen, Novavax right now. And what will happen is very similar to the tobacco settlement. You'll see some giant, issuance, because Pfizer, Moderna are $100 billion to the positive. They're going to have to pay that back to all the families who have been injured or sadly had their loved ones die. They're going to lose in court. They know it. I think if those 2 things happened, the companies would immediately pull their products off the market. You wouldn't see a diphtheria, tetanus, or pertussis. In my adult career, I've never tested anybody for a diphtheria or pertussis. They're legacy diseases we treat with a Z-Pack. Tetanus, we clean out wounds and give antibiotics. None of these things are compelling from a clinical indication or medical necessity perspective.
Now, bringing it back to your book that's actually titled Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. When I read about the book, it says that it's actually not a call to discard vaccines. So you're very strong in your stance here in this interview, but you say that the book itself is not necessarily a call to discard vaccines. It's just to call into question this halo that they have, this we can't even ask questions about. It's just science. It's settled science. So tell me about that. Why do you say it's not a call to discard?
Yeah, so you're asking about the reality. So, the vaccines certainly served a purpose when we had no answer. So we're having 500,000 measles cases per year, and there were several thousand measles deaths. And there's no doubt about it. Measles vaccination did drop measles cases. There's no doubt about it. But they're not perfect, and we still have outbreaks. Another example is the chickenpox vaccine. When I was a kid, I had chickenpox. Everybody I knew had chickenpox. Nowadays, I don't hear about any kids having chickenpox. So they did serve a purpose. However, there's always a consequence. With the chickenpox vaccine, now we have increased rates of shingles in adults because they took the chickenpox vaccine. There's multiple studies show that. So the point is there's always a trade-off. So the reality is vaccines can serve a purpose, but I think a future is going to be a very specific purpose. So let me give an example. A child born with cystic fibrosis, severe pulmonary condition, they probably should get the respiratory vaccines for the protection they can provide. A child born without a spleen or had the spleen taken out due to Hodgkin's treatment or car accident, they should get a specific set of vaccines against several encapsulated bacteria. So I think the future is going to be yes for vaccines, but very limited and specific indications, not one size fits all.
Yeah, excellent. That's common sense. Who knew? Just logical approaches things. That's true science, as evaluating the specific situations and then applying to them.
Right.
It can be very disheartening and demoralizing when you think about that we're still in this place, that not enough has been done to protect people. Like you said, this should be the biggest thing, is protecting human life, protecting our children. But I do want to bring it back to, in those times that we're feeling demoralized, we have to be empowered. We have to be like, well, what can I do? And I think something that's great to do is continue to be yourself educated and continue try to educate others to protect them so that they can be empowered to protect themselves and their family. And I think that this book is a great way for people to know the history of vaccines and feel really good about knowing what's okay to ask and being prepared. So really want to encourage people to get your book. You can now find it on Amazon, Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. And get yourself a copy, get your friends a copy, and empower others to save lives. I mean, ultimately, we need to be educated on this. This should be of the utmost importance. Dr. McCullough, any final thoughts, or did we cover most of the information you wanted to?
I just want everyone to understand, I don't think we're going to be saved by the current administration or current leadership. That there seems to be some type of very, very powerful biopharmaceutical complex, either through lobbying or other forms of direct control. They seem to be calling the shots worldwide. Do you know not a single government has called for a safety investigation of the COVID vaccines? Not a single government's inspected the vials for contaminants or concentration impurities. And not a single country has called for the COVID shots to be removed from the market. These are astonishing observations. I wouldn't look for Trump or Kennedy to provide much help here. This is really going to boil down to the public. If everybody just stops taking COVID shots and parents like you make wise and selective decisions, I think everything will get corrected, and then we'll be able to go from there.
It's a great final thought. It's going to be up to us. So quit holding out hope and quit putting your faith in people, because they often disappoint. Dr. McCullough, thank you so much for your passion and your education on this, and willingness to look at it again, because I know you haven't always felt this way, but I just have so much respect for you for really digging in and having so much integrity in the face of so much persecution. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we may check in with Allison if she's in a spot where she's able to show us what's going on as far as Maha Monday there in DC. Otherwise, we're talking some sense and sensibility. Let's talk and see where we're at economically on things. But again, just a quick break. I'll be right back.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Time to talk sense and sensibility. Dems are now losing their mind. That could probably be the beginning sentence of like every story I do. Dems are now losing their mind. This time they're losing their mind over Trump firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics over her last botched jobs report. Trump Truths she did the same thing just before the presidential election when she lifted the numbers for jobs to an all-time high. I then won the election anyway, and she readjusted the numbers downward, calling it a mistake of almost 1 million jobs, a scam. And, we should just take a look at this lady. She's a Biden appointee. And as soon as I saw her, I'm like, oh, well, that seems about right that she's doing it this way. Tim Young points out, her politics just by looking at her. It's like the Ellen DeGeneres hairstyle, right? Like, okay, obviously they are just in service of Democrats. But here's the deal. Like, whether or not it's political, it's not like this was the first time, it made Trump look bad, so I'm going to fire her because she made me look bad. She has clearly now a track record of getting these numbers wrong. She got them wrong, and to huge, exorbitant numbers. As Trump pointed out, she got them wrong during Biden's administration, kept on having to revise them. We kept on always hearing these glowing reports about job reports, and then they would have to be revised by enormous numbers. And she did it again. So yeah, when somebody isn't doing their job well and continually messes up, then generally you can expect that they should be fired, right? Forget the politics of it. But here's what Trump had to say when asked by a reporter about this firing.
We had a very good weekend in many respects. We're seeing phenomenal numbers in terms of the business we do with other countries and the business we do within our own country. I mean, really phenomenal numbers. We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days. We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous, what she announced, but that was just one negative number. All of the numbers seem to be great. And so we'll see how that comes out. And if you remember, just before the election, this woman came out with these phenomenal numbers on Biden's economy. Phenomenal numbers. And then right after the election, they announced that those numbers were wrong. And that's what they did the other day. So it's a scam, in my opinion. My opinion is it's just additional scam.
And it's not just President Trump that's saying that, this is not done well. This is a scam. You also have Wharton's Jeremy Siegel. He's agreeing. He's saying, look, this whole method needs to be looked at again. This data is mismanaged. We need to do something about this. Here he is talking about it.
This is just not acceptable today. We need that response rate has to go up. And when you make the biggest mistake in 50 years, why? Why wasn't there an explanation? I mean, who's reporting wrong and why? And, there was no, transparency there. And I'm not going to try to justify the firing or not. But, in this world of the internet and instantaneous response, this idea of reports coming in weeks late, I think it's just totally unacceptable. And it changed monetary policy. I mean, I definitely think there would have been a rate cut at the July meeting had we known the numbers were as weak as it was. And, I think, I know one of your past, we're talking about inversion of the term structure. I measure from Fed funds to the 10-year, and it's inverted. And normally the Fed funds is 120 basis points below the 10-year, and that definitely argues for lower than 4.33%. So they need to move on this.
They need to move on this. And this is not necessarily a political guy. He's just saying, look, they messed this up. And if we would have known if there's any truth to these new numbers, this would have affected the decision on the rate cut. So all around, big old mess. Meanwhile, President Trump's new tariffs could rake in up to $4 trillion over a decade, with plans to slash the national debt by $2 trillion. Of course, New York Times, look at the way they're framing this. They're saying Trump's tariffs are making money. That may make them hard to quit. Anything to try and spin it negatively. Oh no, they're making money. How are we going to ever quit having tariffs? It's just so wild how they frame things. They're warning that these tariffs might hit consumers with higher prices. They've been saying this since before the tariffs were even enacted. And so far, we're not necessarily seeing low prices. We got to get our way out of these Biden era depression, right? But we're not necessarily seeing higher prices either. They keep on acting like none of us are going to be able to afford anything. Well, yes, it's still hard, but it's not like it's even harder. So it's something we just haven't seen yet, despite the experts telling us that this is surely going to happen. Eventually it will happen. The money is coming in, external revenue. Isn't that a beautiful way to put it? External revenue instead of internal revenue. Wouldn't it be nice to get rid of the internal revenue service because we have so much external revenue coming in? If we could bring up that chart, we can see just how much tariff revenue is coming in. Look at that, just how it spikes up. Beautiful spike in external revenue coming in July of 2025 there. On top of this, we have OPEC. They just ramped up oil output by 547,000 barrels a day for September. They're ignoring global economic jitters. Trump's tariff wars and pressure on India to ditch Russian oil are shaking things up. So with more oil and more supply means we could see even lower prices when it comes to energy and gas prices. So that's an exciting development. But let's see how things are doing in the market today. Take a live look at the market. Dow jumps over 400 points, S&P 500 and NASDAQ rise, bouncing after Friday's tariff and jobs-fueled sell-off. So we're seeing this a lot. We're seeing that when we get in the red, it's very temporary, and then we just bounce right back up into the green. So if you're investing, that's welcome to see, being in the green. But also a good reminder that when you have investments, you should make sure you're diversified, not just within your stock portfolio accounts, but over asset classes. So, obviously one part of your investment portfolio is going to be market investments, and then you should have outside of the market investments. So you should have real estate. You should have non-market real estate investment like REITs that are outside of the market. You should have precious metals. Precious metals, they love a chaotic market. So there's never been a better time to make sure that you have gold in your portfolio. We encourage you to see what the folks over at Fisher Liberty Gold can do for you. They have partnered with Mike Lindell. You can go to MikeLindellGold.com. MikeLindellGold.com. And here's a way for you to truly diversify your portfolio, get a precious metal play, and also support Mike Lindell and his work, both with his companies and for Lindell TV White House coverage. So go to MikeLindellGold.com, or you can call them and just say, what are my options? What would you recommend for me? And see if you can add that to the mix. Also, just a reminder, we just had that story on OPEC. Now's a great time to invest in American energy. This would also be an outside of the market investment play. You can do that at ChristieOilBoom.com. That's ChristieOilBoom.com. There's a little video there you can watch to figure out how this works. It's the #1 oil and gas royalty. Ends up being payouts to you, and again, a way to have an investment outside of the market. So check that out at ChristieOilBoom.com. Now, I mentioned that we have Allison. She's out there in DC covering the Maha Monday. Obviously, she wasn't able to peek in on this show, but stick here on Lindell TV White House coverage live, as she will be making an appearance later and showing us what's going down here for Maha Monday. So don't go anywhere. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching DC Dispatch.